Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Zeelicious cooking series. In this video, I'm going to show you the reason your jollof rice never comes out right. Now, there are thousands and millions of recipe video tutorials showing you how to make the perfect smoky jollof rice, perfect jollof rice. Still, I get some people in my DM saying they still do not get their jollof rice right. Now, there may be 1,000 million videos showing you how to make the right or the perfect jollof rice, but no one is telling you what you've been doing wrong. And that's what I'm here to address in this video. So let's get right into it, shall we? If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, you know the drill. Hit the subscribe button and the bell just right beside it so you can join our family and get instantly notified whenever we upload a new video. And of course, if you like this video after watching it, please give us a thumbs up, okay? All right, guys, now let's get right into it, shall we? Okay, so just in case you didn't know, jollof rice is a staple dish in this part of the world. It's one of the dishes that we are known for globally. And there is no one who lives in Nigeria or who lives in Africa generally that hasn't heard of jollof rice. Jollof rice is a dish that's made by mixing rice and a tomato pepper blend base together. Like, you know how you'd have your stew and your rice, just put them together and then you have jollof rice. Trust me, guys, it's the absolute bestest thing that ever happened to African or Nigerian cuisine, and it's one of my favorite rice dishes to enjoy. Now, so many people have different ways of making jollof rice, but it still ends up leading to one thing, the jollof rice. But there's only one basic way your jollof rice is supposed to come out, tasting, smelling, and looking. And if it doesn't come out like that, you're getting it all wrong. Now, I get a lot of people say, my jollof rice ends up burning. I never achieved the right color. I never achieved the aroma, the right smell, the consistency, the flavor. I never just get it right. I'm going to address all of the issues here. And then maybe by addressing these issues, you may know what you're not doing right, and then maybe you start doing it right after watching this video. So the very first thing I'm going to talk about is the fresh tomato to pepper and onions ratio. So when you're choosing your fresh tomato to tatashe and onion ratio, you're probably not doing it right. You're picking more tomatoes than tatashe, which is actually very wrong. Now, for every cup of rice, and by cup I mean a standard measuring cup, for every standard measuring cup of rice, you cook with 3 large tatashes and 1 large tomato. So use less tomato and more tatashe. That's the logic, because the tatashe would give the jollof rice a very distinct and unique taste and flavor, and also help it achieve have that very rich red color that jollof rice is supposed to have. And something else you're probably not doing right is adding enough onions. You guys, onions literally adds or intensifies the flavor of your jollof rice, takes it to a whole new level. It has a natural sweetness, and it has this very unique aroma and unique taste that literally works well with all of the other ingredients used in making jollof rice. So I would say that for every 1 cup of rice that you're cooking, use 2 large onions. Trust me, guys, onions makes all of the difference when you're making jollof rice. So like I said, for 1 cup of rice, use 3 large tatashes and 1 large fresh tomato and 2 onion bulbs. That should be your tomato, pepper, and onion ratio. 1 cup of rice, 3 large tatashe, 1 large fresh tomato, and 2 onion bulbs. And of course, for the tomato paste, for every cup of rice, use 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Trust me, you would achieve the perfect color, the perfect taste, and the perfect aroma as well coupled with the other things I'm going to talk about. But for that particular color and taste, use this ratio and come back and thank me later. Okay? So the second thing that's on my list is the color of the jollof rice, which I think I have touched on in the first thing that I mentioned. So usually to achieve that perfect color, like I said, it's not fresh tomatoes that help. It is a combination of the tatashe and the tomato paste you use. A combination of the two actually helps lock it in real well. So for the perfect jollof rice color, use tatashe and tomato paste together, okay? Okay, so the third thing on my list is the pot of choice. Some people think that it's only when you make jollof rice with a stainless steel pot that you really get that party jollof rice taste, or you really get a really good authentic jollof rice flavor and all of that. It's not true. I make jollof rice with my cast iron pot, sometimes my Dutch oven. I make jollof rice with my non-stick pot, and every time I make jollof rice, it comes out tasting amazing. Now, every time I make jollof rice, it doesn't necessarily have that smoky jollof rice taste, which is really, really unique. And that smoky jollof rice taste comes about when your jollof rice burns a little bit, because it's that bottom pot burning effect that makes it smell like that. Every time I make jollof rice, I usually don't get the smoky taste every time. I get it sometimes, but my jollof rice still tastes amazing. I'm not looking for it to have a smoky taste all the time. I just want it to taste really good. So the pot of your choice that you use, I've actually achieved that smoky taste using my non-stick pot. So you can, it's not by using the stainless steel pot. I think that's a really big misconception. So don't just stick to using a stainless steel pot to make your jollof rice. You can use any type of pot, but still come out with very banging and flavorful jollof rice. So don't be restricted to the stainless steel pot, okay? Now, the next thing on my list is the quantity of oil you're using. Now, to get that perfect jollof rice flavor, it requires you to fry a lot, like fry your onions and the pepper blend mix. And because of that, you'll be needing enough oil. I'm not saying use a lot of oil, but do not mice your oil. So for 1 cup of jollof rice, I usually would make it with a 1/4 cup of oil. It sounds like a lot of, sometimes I even go as much as 1/2 cup. Yes, for 1 cup. Because I find that it helps fry up the tomatoes really well. It helps fry up the onions really well. And then it gives my jollof rice this glossy, shiny effect or look that makes the jollof rice look amazing. So apart from it just helping with the taste, it's also helping with the look, how it looks. It comes out looking very shiny and just very beautiful. And of course, it helps your rice grain stand apart. It doesn't clump up together or stick, which is one thing that helps with the stickiness. So cooking with enough oil is one thing that I highly recommend when you're making jollof rice. The next thing on my list is the flavor building stage. Now, this stage is when you put the oil in the pot, allow it to heat up, and then you pour in the onions, the chopped onions, or your onion strips, or however you decide to cut your onions, and you stir fry it for about 30 seconds to release all the flavor. So you are not frying, one thing you're doing wrong is you are not frying your onions long enough for it to release its aromatic flavor. Some people just pour the onions in and just stir for 5 seconds and that's it. You have to wait a little bit until your onions tend to like caramelize a little. It's not caramelized totally, but it has that fry aroma. So when cooking jollof rice, you have to cook it with your sense of smell and your sense of sight. So you have to perceive that. In fact, the onion should almost smell like it's about to burn. It's not burning, but it should smell that way. So let it caramelize a little bit. Be patient when frying the onions. That's the #1 flavor building stage for making your jollof rice or even any meal that you're making. Be patient to fry the onions very well. So the second thing you're not doing right in the flavor building stage is you are not frying the tomato paste well. I usually like to fry my tomato paste before I pour in the tomato pepper blend mix. So taking the time to fry the tomato paste until the tomato paste is literally almost crumbly. It's looking very crumbly and literally standing apart. That's when you know that you have really fried the tomato paste very well. But sometimes some of you do not take the time to fry that tomato paste really well, and you just continue with the process without building the flavor in this stage. So you would end up with funny looking or funny tasting jollof rice. So that's the second thing you may not be doing right. Fry the tomato paste very well until it is almost crumbly. After frying the tomato paste, then you now pour in the tomato pepper blend mix. Remember the tomato pepper and onion ratio earlier? You blend that in a blender, and then when it's finely pureed, you pour that into the pot after frying the tomato paste. Pour it into the pot. Now, this is another major flavor building stage, and if you do not take the time to fry up this the blend at this point, you would also end up with very bland tasting jollof rice. So what some of you do is you just pour in the pepper blend, cover the pot, allow it to steam for like 2-3 minutes and open the pot and continue cooking. No, give it some time, as much as 8 to 10 to 12 minutes, and allow it to fry very well. And that's why I said that you need enough oil to fry up these things that you're cooking. So you can put enough oil and then maybe later discard it when you're done frying, but you really want to ensure that you are frying the tomato pepper blend mix and the tomato paste and the onions very well. This is the flavor building stage for your jollof rice, and if you get this whole part wrong, trust me, your jollof rice is not going to come out right. So pay close attention to when you fry the onions first. So when you put the onions into the hot oil, leave it to fry for like 30 seconds to 35 seconds on medium heat, looking at it, like paying close attention to it. After allowing it caramelize a bit, you now throw in the tomato paste and fry for about, I think, 5 minutes until it starts to crumble up. You literally see it falling apart in the oil. Afterwards, you now pour in the tomato pepper blend mix and fry again for another 8 to 10 to 12 minutes until the moisture, the water content is almost dried out and you literally can see the oil bubbling right on top of it. Do you understand? So please pay attention to this stage, because this is the make or mar process for your jollof rice. And if you don't pay attention to this, you would end up with funny tasting jollof rice, even if you use the right ratio for the tomato pepper and onion blend. So pay attention to the frying of all of this, okay? So the next thing on my list is the seasonings, the quality and the quantity of seasonings used. Some of you think that it's by adding too many seasonings into the pot that you think that is when you would have the best tasting jollof rice. So keep your seasonings minimal. You don't have to add a lot of seasoning cubes or a lot of curry powder or a lot of thyme. No, in moderate quantity, in moderation. So the seasonings of choice that I would usually use are just curry powder. I use some thyme as well. I use a little bit of grounded fresh nutmeg for mine as well. I use seasoning cubes, but I don't use a lot of seasoning cubes. I use about, for a cup of rice, I use about 2 seasoning cubes, and then I use some salt. I use bay leaves as well. I think that's about it. And then sometimes I add ground pepper and then some paprika powder for just to help with the color and of course the flavor as well. So when you're thinking seasonings, don't overdo it, but don't go overboard with the seasonings. It's not the seasonings that really makes it. It helps with the taste, but that's not all that helps with the taste. So I'm gonna put the exact quantity of seasonings that I use in the description box down below. And then recently I also made this my all-purpose seasoning. Sometimes when I'm making jollof rice, all I do is I use 1 teaspoon or 1 tablespoon of that, depending on the quantity of jollof rice I'm making, to make the jollof rice, and that's basically all that you need. So I'm going to put the link in the description box down below to let you know the exact quantity of seasonings that I use to make a cup or 2 or 3 or more of jollof rice, okay? So the next thing on my list is stock or water. So there's been a debate that stock makes your jollof rice sweeter than when you use water. I don't agree. I've made my jollof rice with stock, it came out nice. I made it with water, it still came out nice. So I don't think that the stock or the water, or whether you use stock or water, is what affects the taste or alters the taste or the flavor or the look of it. Stock actually helps amplify, but don't stay stuck on that and say, oh, since I don't have stock, I'm not going to make jollof rice. No, you can still make jollof rice with water and it will come out tasting nice as well, okay? The next thing is the quality of rice that you're using. This also matters a great deal. You don't want to use rice that easily gets soggy up or doesn't have a good, because rice actually has flavor as well. So you want to buy premium quality rice. Basmati rice works really well for jollof rice. Long grain rice works really well. The usual one we have in Nigeria called the parboiled rice, which you guys usually call white rice, also works well. So the type of rice you use has to be a quality rice. Don't buy your very low grade rice that you used to cook and then it just spoils the whole taste of your dish. So focus on getting quality rice. It might cost a little more, but the taste is always very different than the poor graded or the low graded rice that you find. So focus on quality, okay? The next thing on my list is the water to rice ratio. A lot of people think that it is water that actually cooks your rice, and because of this they tend to put a lot more water than is actually needed for the quantity of rice that they are making. What cooks your rice is not water, it is steam. Steam is what cooks the rice. And adding more and more and more and more water into the rice would end up, what you would end up with is a drop in flavor and a drop in color, and which will lead to a drop in aroma and texture. It will become soggy, you wouldn't have that red color anymore, the taste will not be there, it would literally be degraded, terribly degraded. So for depending on the kind of rice that you're using, different rice calls for different water measurements, but the basic measurement is, and my advice would always be, for every cup of rice, start with 1.5 cups of water. Start with that first. And then if you think that you need more, you can add a little more. And I believe that this step and the next step I'm going to talk about work hand in hand, which is the heat. The next step is the heat. Now, cooking your rice on high heat will dry up the water fast without cooking the rice or without softening up the rice, which will now make you keep adding more and more and more water. So reducing your heat to the lowest and allowing the heat temperature just come up gradually and letting the water you have in the pots turn into steam, and then cooking the rice in the steam will get your rice softer than when you cook the rice on high heat and then the water literally will dry up fast. Your rice won't be done, and then you keep adding water and you keep adding water and you keep adding water. So the secret is very simple. For every 1 cup of rice, start with 1.5 cups of water. Put the water in the rice and then reduce your heat to the lowest. Cover the pot. Ensure that the pot is tightly covered. You can use foil paper if you want, or you can use parchment paper to cover the rice, the pot of the rice first. This would help trap the steam in the pot before you now cover the pot with the lid. The steam will be trapped. Reduce the heat to the lowest. Trust me on this one, guys. What you would end up with is very fluffy, flavorful jollof rice that you don't even need to add more water into. So cooking your rice on high heat is definitely what makes the water dry out fast without cooking the rice or softening up the rice. So again, I'm going to repeat it. Start with, for every cup of rice, cook with 1.5 cups of water for starters. Reduce the heat to the lowest. Cover the pot with a foil paper or parchment paper first to trap the steam in it. Then now cover the pot with the cover of the lid again to trap the steam with the heat in the lowest and let it cook. Usually it takes about 30 to 35 minutes to cook white rice, as the parboiled rice that we know, and then I think about 25 to 30 minutes to cook basmati rice. It depends, because basmati rice cooks a lot faster than the parboiled rice. But if you're cooking brown rice, for every 1 cup of rice, cook with 2 cups of water, because brown rice needs more water to cook. But always remember this, guys, always remember this rule: cook your rice on the lowest heat. That way you would retain the taste, you will retain the seasonings you added, the flavor, you retain the color, you will retain everything. Trust me on this one. Trust me, guys, okay? So the last thing that's supposed to be on my list is the cooking time, which I think I've talked about. When cooking time basically for white rice or parboiled rice, I said before, is 30 to 35 minutes, and for basmati rice is about 25 to 30 minutes. For brown rice is about, I think, 45 to 50 minutes. So that's the base cooking time, on low heat. Always cook your rice on low heat. So cooking time really varies depending on the type of rice you're cooking. And of course, if you're cooking your rice with a pressure pot, I think for white rice it takes about 8 to 10 minutes or so, or 10 to 12 minutes. For brown rice it takes about 20 to 25 minutes, and then for basmati rice it takes about literally 5 to 8 minutes to cook in a pressure pot. So pay attention to these things. So these are some of the things that you may not be paying attention to that will literally help amplify the taste and the look and the color of your rice and take it to a whole new level. So when next you're making a pot of jollof rice, pay attention to these things. Just pay close attention. Be patient. Make your jollof rice with a heart full of love. Look at the jollof rice as a love gift to yourself or to whoever it is you're making it for, and then pay closer attention to the points that I just raised now. And I tell you, the next time that you're going to be making jollof rice is going to be banging. I have many jollof rice recipes, but I think the last jollof rice recipe I uploaded is my favorite. I think I uploaded that sometime 2 years ago or thereabout. I've received a lot of compliments on that jollof rice, but some people still didn't get it right. So you can use that recipe, and then when you're using that recipe, pay attention. I'm going to put the link in the description box down below so you can check that out as well. When you're using that recipe to make your jollof rice this time, pay attention to these things that I have mentioned. I think I even mentioned them there, but I didn't mention them in big detail. So pay attention to it this time, and then watch how perfect your jollof rice is going to turn out. I hope I've been able to help someone. I'm always here to help, here to serve. If you have any complications with any other dish and you want me to demystify it and break it down for you and explain to you maybe things that you're not doing right, please kindly leave the name of the dish in the comment section down below, and then I'll look into it and then bring out the points and then come here and dissect it for you so that you know the things that you may not be doing right and then start doing them right. Okay? Alright guys, I'll see you next time with another recipe video or a talking video. These days we talk a lot and I think you guys like it, right? Alright guys, I'll see you next time with another video. Until then, remember that I'm still the queen of fun and fast cooking, and I'll see you next time. Take care guys. Mwah.